New tonight on Our News Live at 7, police are investigating the death of a baby boy as a man is charged with the death of a baby girl last week. The Free National Movement leader claims the government has failed the country on shanty towns and illegal migration. Our Berthany McDermott has the story straight ahead. And if you live or work in southern New Providence, your drive may soon become a lot smoother. We'll tell you why. And then in Our News at 7:30, a look at how the public healthcare system is addressing a blood shortage after the issue was thrust into the spotlight last week. Our News Live at 7 starts now. Welcome to Our News Live at 7. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Kendino Knowles. Off the top, we are following the death of a baby who investigators tell us was only 3 months old. What we know so far is that the infant was found unresponsive at a daycare. We are just getting more information from investigators on this. That's coming up in just a moment. But first, we go now to another story we've been following as health officials are now on the defense as investigations into the death of Kenise Darville continues. The Public Hospitals Authority Managing Director, Dr. Abinette Roll, says they've already begun looking at ways to improve services at Princess Margaret Hospital. Her comments come days after the death of the wife and mother of 3, whose family told Our News on Friday that they will seek justice. The outrage on social media prompting this defense from Dr. Roll, who says they're looking at ways to deal with a shortage of supply at blood banks across the country.
We're looking to extend the ability for persons to donate right within their communities. So I'm working with them this week, as well as organizations to come together. I also want the public to understand that even though you may have donors, we have various types of blood. We have O positive, O negative, A, AB, B, and in some cases it's very difficult to find what we call a match.
Now, she's stressing that the need for blood is critical, and amid staffing shortages, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville says officials are trying to fill the gaps.
Many of our healthcare workers are going beyond the call of duty and filling those gaps while the government continue with the recruitment exercise to try to attract workers from outside of the country. That is going on in an atmosphere of training. All right, we've got more on this coming up in Our News at 7:30. And while the Public Hospitals Authority is dealing with that situation, the state-run agency has finally sealed its industrial agreement with the Bahamas Public Services Union. The PHA managing director says the agreement is valued at $10 million and covers the period from July 2022 to July 2024. It also makes way for a series of incremental salary increases over 3 years and these other benefits.
Increases to the project pay, which increases now to $20 an hour. Expansion of categories of staff eligible to receive monthly hazard allowance, and so we've expanded that, but have also based on our risk rankings from low, medium to high. We've also increased our rental allowance by $50 per month across the Commonwealth. We've increased the subsistence allowance.
Compassionate leave has been expanded, as well as the development of a mental health support program with new uniforms to come yearly. BPSU President Kinsley Ferguson says his members are satisfied and are especially pleased with the increase in hazardous pay and an insurance plan for employees. But he says there were other demands that were not met.
The long-standing nature of the hazard allowance and the period which had elapsed, not taking for granted the time frame under which the individuals were working in these particular environments, that there will be no compensation for. And so that is something we hope that we can have a discussion on and that we can arrive at some amicable solution regarding that particular item.
And now to that investigation into the death of another baby. This time, police say a 3-month-old baby boy was taken to hospital around 11 a.m. where he later died. Police say sometime around 8 a.m. the child's mother left her baby at a daycare in southern New Providence, and that's where the director of the facility found the infant unresponsive during routine checks. Medics were called and the baby was taken to hospital by ambulance. Efforts to revive the child were unsuccessful, and police say there were no visible signs of trauma. An autopsy will be performed to determine the exact cause of death. This as police have arrested and charged a man for the death of a 3-month-old baby. 29-year-old Kirkwood Thompson is behind bars after he was arraigned for manslaughter in the January 16th death of Tanisha Milford. Thompson is the boyfriend of the child's mother. Prosecutors say Thompson was babysitting Tanisha when she became unresponsive. She was pronounced dead at the hospital on the same day. Police arrested Thompson after doctors noticed injuries on the baby's face. Thompson appeared before Magistrate Algernon Allen Jr. and didn't have to enter a plea to the charge. He returns to court on March 9th for a voluntary bill of indictment that will fast-track his case to the Supreme Court. In the interim, his lawyer, Richard Humes, is expected to seek bail in the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, $250,000 worth of drugs has been found and confiscated in the past week. Police say a partnership between the Royal Bahamas Police and Defense Forces netted 112 pounds of suspected marijuana, cocaine, and marijuana plants. The drugs were found between January 16th and 22nd. All right, we've got a lot more to get to, but for now, it's time for your first look at temperatures. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the latest. Greg, this weekend was much warmer, and I was grateful. Yeah. Are we able to see that continuing?
Yeah, we're going to see some warmer temperatures up until Friday, but we do expect the front to come through, and that should cool us down a little bit. So it's not going to be cold, but yeah, a little cool.
All right, well, I'll keep watching.
All right. Outside the studios right now, though, temperatures warm, 78 degrees under partly cloudy skies. We are watching a front boundary that's pushing towards the south. Winds are out of the northwest at 6 miles per hour, and your feels-like temperature also a very warm 77. Temperatures around the islands tonight right now, it's 71 in Freeport. That's behind the front. The front is actually just to the south of them. 75 in Marsh Harbour. We pick up 78 in Alistown, Bimini, as well as in Great Harbour Key. So you notice the temperature change there. 75 in Nicholstown, Andros, Governor's Harbour, 77, 78 here in the capital. Into the central Bahamas, temperatures also in the upper 70s there. But 75 in Kemps Bay, 78 in Coburn Town, San Salvador, 77 in Coburn Town, that's actually Arthurstown, and Coburn Town, 77. Georgetown and Deadman's Key, you guys checking in with 79. Southeast Bahamas, all near the 80-degree mark there with 79s at Duncantown, Ragged Island, Colonel Hill, Crooked Island, Delectable Bay, and in Matthewtown, Inagua. Abraham's Bay, Meguana, 78, and our neighbors to the southeast, Turks and Caicos Islands, you are 78 at this hour. Satellite view, front boundary that we're tracking right now, just to the south of Grand Bahama. Some isolated showers along the front, not much in terms of any real significant weather, but we do have a lot of high-level clouds behind that front that's going to be dropping across the area. The front is expected to drop just to the south of New Providence and stall before lifting back up towards the north. That's in advance of another front that we expect to get near sometime Thursday into Friday. And of course, as I mentioned, we should see a nice cool down once that front goes through for the weekend. That's your first check on weather. Stick with us. A look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come in our news, why the opposition says government has failed the country on shanty towns and immigration, and keeping our communities clean, what one community on Grand Bahama is doing to stay pristine. Plus, if southern New Providence is part of your daily commute, things may soon get a lot smoother. We'll tell you why when our news returns. Police are warning the public of an uptick in an unusual crime, calling it an egregious offense. This as police say some individuals are pretending to be public servants and are questioning residents during the impersonation. They are cautioning you to be aware and are warning anyone found committing this offense that they will be arrested and could face up to 3 months in prison. And the Free National Movement is taking another hit at the government over what some say is its failure to act on the shantytown and illegal migration issue. Berthany McDermott reports.
Free National Movement leader Michael Pintard lashing out at the Davis administration for failing to act on the shantytown issue in the Bahamas.
The government is not merely dragging its feet. The government is failing to act. and failing to act intentionally. And the question is why?
On Wednesday, Immigration Minister Keith Bell sent a bold warning to illegal immigrants to leave or be deported. That followed a protest outside the office of the Prime Minister led by Coalition of Independence leader Lakin Bain, who too suggested the government is dragging its feet on the immigration issue. Pintard saying failing to act could result in bigger issues.
We now open up a discussion that goes to an extreme in many cases. And so you have some persons who spew hate, who try to make every problem the baby people have, the problems that immigrants have created. So you're moving from one extreme to the other.
But that's a sentiment Prime Minister Philip Davis isn't accepting. On Thursday, he said his government is addressing it, but doubled down telling migrants to obey the law. However, the FNM leader says it's as if the government has cut a deal.
For the life of many Bahamians who look at common sense solutions, they said, hold on Monday, 4 months ago, they were building on this property. That set of houses are complete and the government was made aware. And then 3 months ago, more were built, and 2 months ago, and 1 month ago. And so people are building.
All right, and now to another story that's been on our radar. The price of eggs in the United States has gone up 138% from the year before. And now Farm Action, a U.S.-based NGO, is calling on the Federal Trade Commission to dig in to ensure consumers are not victims of price gouging. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has pointed to the record numbers of avian flu as part of the reason for climbing prices. And the American Egg Board has commented that a variety of factors have contributed to the rise. One company said to control 20% of the American retail egg market, reported gross profits are up more than 600% than the same period the year before, and said the avian flu outbreak was causing the prices to rise. So far, it said that that company has had no confirmed cases of avian flu or any of their farms. And Farm Action is urging the FTC to also examine the extremely high profits at top egg retailers. Now, so far, the FTC has declined to comment. For a more local perspective, we'll have more on the rising cost of eggs coming up in our news at 7:30. Our Marlena Leonard will tell us about some cost-saving options. The Pristine Pine Ridge Initiative officially getting underway as the area Member of Parliament met with residents in the Hudson Estate subdivision on Friday and discussed one of the main concerns, the removal of bulk waste. Megan Shepherd has more.
Member of Parliament for Pine Ridge and Minister for Grand Bahama, Ginger Moxie, noting that residents within her constituency have expressed concerns about having bulk waste removed from their community. To this end, the Pristine Pine Ridge Initiative was launched in the Hudson Estates community.
There's always been an issue in this area with the removal of bulk waste. So we're here today really launching also Pristine Pine Ridge, which is our exercise, our initiative to ensure that Pine Ridge stays clean.
Moxie says the dumping of bulk waste has been a reoccurring issue, and she is calling on those offenders to stop.
Well, I saw it in campaigning, and I think there's some stuff that was removed prior, and then it came right back. And so it seems as though people used it to dump a lot of stuff.
The parliamentarian is calling on the GBPA, the subdivision's developers and residents, to partner in keeping the community clean. She says there are plans for further beautification.
We're actually also looking for property that we can have a community park in this area as well. And so that's you're on it, because we're identifying the lots so that we can do some things ourselves.
Resident Amelia Morley says she and other residents were grateful to see the bulk waste being removed.
I was standing to my bedroom, and then when I see the big truck come through, I start screaming, and then my neighbor down the street who was with me at the meeting last night, she called me and we all start screaming on the phone together because we were so excited.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepherd.
All right, thanks, Megan. And the Ministry of Public Works and Utilities is on an ambitious mission to make your daily commute a much smoother process. Jamila Mizik takes us to one of their latest projects in Our News' newest segment called Work in Progress.
If you live in the South Beach or Bamboo Town area or have to frequent those communities, you may notice some road work during your daily commute. That's because owner of Black Gold Trucking, Darrell Embrister, and his team are currently conducting a road patching exercise.
So what the ministry has done is tasked us multiple contractors to do pothole patching in the various areas. And what we then do is we excavate the holes after we cut and prep them. And after excavation, we apply the asphalt the following day.
He walks us through the process.
So after cutting excavation, when we come to apply asphalt, what we do is we put down something called tap. And what that does is it's a bonding agent to help seal the asphalt to the actual ground. So on that base, when to move those rocks, we apply the tack, then we apply the asphalt. That's just as sturdy as the actual road that any government contractor or the government actually place down. So you have a pretty long life expectancy out of it.
And as for where you can expect to see them working next?
So on this road, there's probably a few more holes on this actual strip, this Cowpen Road strip. From here to Marshall Road to a problematic hole. And from there, we'll probably go back around to East Street. And after doing that, as you can see, what we do is we measure them also. So we'll measure them, and that's how I also calculate how much asphalt I need to apply the following day.
For Work in Progress for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
All right, thanks, Jamila. And to keep up to date with the latest work improvements in your community, from paving schedules to other infrastructure developments that may directly impact you and your household, be sure and catch Work in Progress, sponsored by the Ministry of Works, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for all the latest information. When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as one country may be facing crisis due to its falling birth rate. Plus, immigration over the years, how the Bahamian government set a deadline in 1981 for illegal Haitian migrants to leave the country. And later, Northern police officers spread love, equality, and respect. Stay with us. This is Our News. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. Authorities search for motive for the gunman who they say targeted the Asian community, killing 10 people at a Los Angeles area ballroom dance club during Lunar New Year celebrations. The suspect, 72-year-old Hu Can Tran, was found dead of a self-inflicted gunshot wound Sunday in the van that authorities say he used to flee after attempting to attack a second dance hall. The massacre was the nation's 5th mass killing this month.
I can confirm that there are no outstanding suspects from the mass shooting incident that occurred in the city of Monterey Park.
It just feels very gloomy. I'm pretty sure all our hearts are heavy, and I'm very happy to see the community come together. However, it's under a bad circumstance.
Unfortunately, I have now become a member of the club of members of Congress who've had a mass shooting in their districts. It has been happening on a daily basis now, and we can barely keep count of these mass shootings. Something has to be done. We have to stop having the availability of these assault weapons on the streets, so that it's so easy for somebody to just walk into an establishment and shoot people and ruin their lives.
Japan's prime minister says his country is on the brink of not being able to function as a society because of its falling birth rate. Fumio Kishida said it was a case of now or never, and says government will focus attention on policies regarding children and child rearing. He says he eventually wants government to double its spending on child-related programs and a new agency to be set up in April. Japan now has the world's second highest proportion of people aged 65 and over.
Many of the countries such as China, Japan, Singapore, Taiwan, they have been trying various things to have a higher growth rate in population. Primarily, this has been through financial incentives for having children. But we are also seeing that they have not been as effective as what we have seen in certain other countries like Germany and all, which have made childcare much more affordable, much more proximity, as in they are much nearer to the workforce, especially the female workforce, and also providing very innovative schemes such as allowing freezing of eggs for single women even. Such kind of innovative policies will have to be tried out.
The process of hiring BBC Chairman Richard Sharp is to be reviewed by the Commissioner of Public Appointments, William Shawcross. It follows claims Sharp helped secure a loan of up to £800,000 for then Prime Minister Boris Johnson shortly before getting the BBC job. Mr. Shawcross said his review would ensure the process had been run in compliance with government rules. Mr. Sharp, a former Goldman Sachs banker, became chairman in January 2021. And right here in the region, Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has sacked the country's army chief 2 weeks after rioting in the capital. General Julio César de Arruda had only been in the role since December 30th, just after former President Jair Bolsonaro's reign ended. President Lula has said he suspects members of the armed forces colluded with protesters. The president has dismissed dozens of military officers in recent days. And finally, about a third of Bermudians have received their second and third doses of the coronavirus vaccine. Minister of Health Kim Wilson, in her weekly COVID-19 update, saying the territory has been able to distribute 3,868 doses it received last September. Wilson encouraging islanders to get booster shots or a test to determine their COVID status. Still to come in our news, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was January 23rd and the anniversary of the introduction of a resolution to end discrimination in the Bahamas Islands. Plus, Greg is back with your extended weather forecast. And then in our news at 7:30, while you may not want to put all of your eggs in the foreign basket, the case for local eggs is hatching. That's coming up when our news returns. Welcome back to Our News. It's time now to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was January 23rd, including the tabling of a resolution on racial discrimination. Take a look. On this day in Bahamian history, in 1923, Emma Evelyn Carey Cooper was born in Tarpon Bay, Eleuthera. Cooper was a lifelong educator for nearly 40 years. Her career as a teacher began in January of 1943 at Quarry Mission, Western Junior and Western Senior Schools. Following her retirement, she was honored by the Primary Principals Association in 1978, and in 1984 she was awarded a British Empire Medal for long service in the field of education. The following year, the Palmetto Point All-Age School was renamed in her honor. Cooper died in August 2013. Then in 1956, late politician and former Tribune editor and publisher Sir Etienne Dupuche tabled a resolution in Parliament calling for an end to discrimination in the Bahamas Islands based on race and color. This is said to be one of the key moments in the civil and social movement in the colony. The move by Sir Etienne made it possible for black Bahamians to have free access to all public places. On this day in 1981, an article appeared in the New York Times with the headline, "Bahamas, once a haven, is land of fear for Haitians." The article points to the expiration of a deadline for Haitians to leave the country and that most of the 25,000 illegal Haitian residents in the Bahamas at the time were now subject to arrest and deportation. The article reads, although the Bahamian government cannot expel the Haitians en masse and apparently will not try, Bahamians see themselves in a struggle for national survival. And finally, in 2013, members of the Vote Yes campaign marched on Parliament to advocate for the legalization of gaming. Hundreds, including web shop owners, workers, and campaign supporters, crammed the streets to Parliament to convince lawmakers to regularize the industry. Web shop gaming was later legalized in July 2014. The Royal Bahamas Police Force Northern District partnering with multiple government and non-governmental agencies to help members of the disabled community. Assistant Commissioner of Police Theophilus Cunningham says the disabled community deserves to live independently and to be treated with love, equality, and respect.
As human beings, we all face difficulties at one time or another in our lives. But for people living with disabilities, complications can occur on a daily basis. Therefore, we must take on the role of our brothers keepers and promote disability awareness so that steps may be taken to make our society inclusive for all.
Deputy Director of Urban Renewal Grand Bahamas, Senator Kirkland Russell, says as the country prepares to celebrate 50 years of independence, we must pause to give God thanks.
When I say all Bahamians, we must take into consideration persons living with disability. And so you can't have 10% of your population totally excluded from normalcy, from opportunities, from being able to fulfill their dreams. Our dreams are no different than their dreams.
All right, to watch that story again and for all of today's top stories, you can visit ournews.bs. That's going to do it for us on News at 7. Joining us now is Italia Hall with the latest headlines. Italia, happy Monday. I hope you had a good weekend.
Great, restful weekend.
Wonderful.
What about you?
Same.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, Ken, we are still following the story of the woman who died in hospital last week. What hospital officials are saying about a possible blood shortage, as well as the latest on the murder of a Defense Force Marine.
A critical need for blood, first tonight on Our News Live at 7:30. Public hospital officials address the need for blood supplies in the public healthcare system. The case for local eggs is hatching. Our Marlena Leonard explains why you may not have to walk on eggshells for much longer. But first, 2 men are being questioned by police in relation to the murder of a Defense Force Marine last week. Details of the investigation straight ahead, and later how a local business is stepping up to help transform a child's life. Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment.
Welcome to Our News, and thank you for joining us. I'm Italia Hall. The recent death of a wife and mother of 3 prompting health officials to look at ways to address issues at the Princess Margaret Hospital. Public Hospitals Authority Managing Director Dr. Aubenet Roll is also coming to the hospital's defense. Our Berthney McDermott is continuing to follow the story in this report.
As investigations into the death of Kenise Darville continues, the Public Hospitals Authority Managing Director says they've already begun looking at ways to improve services at PMH. After hearing the outrage on social media, Roll says they're looking at ways to deal with the lack of blood at blood banks across the country.
We're looking to extend the ability for persons to donate right within their communities. So I'm working with them this week, as well as organizations, to come together. I also want the public to understand that even though you may have donors, we have various types of blood. We have O positive, O negative, A, AB, B, and in some cases it's very difficult to find what we call a match.
Darville was admitted to hospital on January 2nd. She was told days after that she needed family and friends to donate blood, a request Roll says isn't out of the ordinary. Darville's death sparked public outrage as residents took to social media to express their displeasure, many of them warning Bahamians not to go to PMH for care.
And there have been some very not so nice things going on media. And, you know, when we do that, we tend to cause people to be resistant in their approach when they really need that medical attention. I want to plead to the public to please do not let that be a deterrent for you to come and get the care that you need.
Roll says she reached out to Kanice's husband, Gerard Darville, and is awaiting his call. She's also stressing there is a critical need for blood. And amid staffing shortages, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville says they're trying to fill the gaps.
Many of our healthcare workers are going beyond the call of duty and filling those gaps while the government continue with a recruitment exercise to try to attract workers from outside of the country. That is going on in an atmosphere of training.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Doctors Hospital, one of the premier private healthcare facilities in the Bahamas, is looking to expand their services. President and CEO Dr. Charles Digges says by the end of 2025, they will have 4 hospitals.
3 in New Providence, a beautiful facility, conversion of the Red Carpet Inn, and the complete build-out of Doctors Hospital West and our main plan, Doctors Hospital East. And then the Grand Bahama Hospital, or the Rockwell Hospital, a very benevolent contribution from one of the philanthropists in the Freeport community. It's always great to get a gift like that, and committed to development of a hospital in Grand Bahama, Phase 1, 25 beds.
Dr. Digges says Doctors Hospital is preparing to implement a developed relationship with Cleveland Clinic, and they're looking forward to introducing specialty services that would take the Bahamas healthcare system to another level.
In our Go North strategy, our thinking is instead of, and I know Grand Bahamians don't normally come to Nassau for step-up care, but what we envisage is in the future the movement from the south through New Providence and then to the north, creating a reference hospital with the energies of both parties in Grand Bahama. So Phase 2 is a build-out of advanced specialty services.
Government preparing legislation that will impose taxes on sugar and excess salt being imported into the country. That's according to Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville, who says this is all in an effort to promote nutrition and the selection of the right foods.
We plan to implement some new legislation that will create a tax for sugar, a tax for excess salt, try to eliminate trans fats being imported into the country. All of these are precursors for cardiovascular disease, kidney failure, and end organ disease. And so health and wellness is paramount. And the STEPS survey clearly indicate the direction we're heading in is the wrong direction.
He has said the Bahamas has the highest rate of obesity, diabetes, and hypertension in the region. He also says they are about to establish a health and wellness unit that will focus on nutrition, physical activity, and mental health across the country.
Very soon I would be launching my health and wellness initiative. It will extend for our workers in the Department of Public Health and the PHA, and by extension to all ministries, and hopefully very shortly be able to get to the grassroots. It's important for us to preach health and wellness because we did a STEP study that was completed, and it clearly indicated where we are as a nation in terms of our health.
A 21-year-old man is accused of killing another man last year. Prosecutors say Alexander Sands shot Lavandro Paul multiple times outside his Roberts Drive home on July 10, 2022. Now, after having multiple surgeries, Paul died from his injuries in hospital. On December 17th, Sands did not have to enter a plea to the murder charge when he appeared before Assistant Chief Magistrate Silvasola Swain. Now, bail was denied and Sands returned to court on April 27 to receive a voluntary bill of indictment papers. Murder victim's brother won't be able to attend his funeral as he is now behind bars facing a murder charge. Prosecutors have charged 29-year-old Jeremiah Andrews with the January 6th shooting, murder of Tequil Tynes, who was otherwise known as Pumpkin. Tynes was shot dead at King's Bar on Robinson Road, and prosecutors say Andrews is responsible. Now, Andrews was not required to enter a plea to the murder charge when he appeared before Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt. He was denied bail and returns to court on April 4th. Now, this means that Andrews will miss the funeral of his brother Kevin Andrews, who was shot dead on January 2nd, along with his girlfriend, Laurenique Taylor, at their home in Montel Heights. Now, police have charged Shervin Mullings with their murders. Police have 2 men in custody in connection with the murder of Royal Bahamas Defense Force Marine Seaman Alvarez McCoy. The 20 and 27-year-old men who are residents of Eastern New Providence were arrested just after 11 a.m. on Friday. Now, you may recall McCoy was shot just before 2 a.m. last Wednesday when he arrived at his Bristol Street home in Fox Hill. His mother exclusively told Our News last week that she had forgiven her son's killers. Now, police have not said if and when those suspects would face charges in court. Police have removed 5 firearms and over 80 rounds of ammunition off the streets. The weapons, primarily handguns, were seized between January 16th and January 22nd by officers from Operation Ceasefire. The Anti-Gang and Firearms Unit, the Drug Enforcement Unit, and the Abaco Division. Now police are questioning 9 men and 1 woman in connection with the seizures. A clear evening outside the Our News studios tonight. Meteorologist Greg Thompson joins us now from the Weather Center. Good evening, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Natalia, and good evening, everybody. We do have a frontal boundary that we're watching now moving into the northwest Bahamas. We showed on our satellite picture. But outside our studios right now, temperatures are still falling, 75 degrees, partly cloudy skies. Your winds are out of the northwest at 6 miles per hour, and you'll feel slight temperature slightly warmer at 77 degrees. Satellite view, frontal boundary just to the south of Grand Bahama, just approaching the Berry Islands. Line of showers associated with that boundary, a couple isolated thunderstorms in that line as well, but that line will continue to fall apart. Behind that, high pressure will be building across our area, and we're looking for some breezy conditions through tomorrow. That's your first check on weather. Stick with us. So look at your extended forecast.
Still to come on Our News, how local farmers may come to the rescue amid inflation in egg prices, and planting seeds for a national food policy. Plus, we're officially on the road to 50 years of independence, and we're taking a closer look at the logo designed to represent the milestone. That's all coming up when Our News returns. We've had multiple stories over the past year about rising prices in the grocery stores, and now thanks to an increase in bird flu cases and shipping costs, eggs are now joining the list of high-priced items. Well, our Marlena Leonard takes a look at how some local farmers are doing their best to provide affordable eggs.
Residents have taken to social media to call out the price of eggs at local stores. But the Bahamas isn't the only place experiencing the price spike. The American Bureau of Labor Statistics says the prices there had gone up 138% by December 2022 compared to the year before. And naturally, as we import from the U.S., the prices rise even higher when they hit our shelves. Local grocers have explained the cause for the increase as being connected to a shortage caused by the largest avian flu outbreak in U.S. history, which according to the USDA has caused the death of 58 million chickens and turkeys since early 2022. But even with the explanations, some consumers argue that they simply can't afford it. But it's not all bad. The hesitancy at the grocery store has brought local farmers and local programs into the spotlight. Tiffany Dennison, owner of Local Organics Limited in Grand Bahama, has her own farm and flock of chickens.
So for us, I've kept the dozen eggs at $6. And they're anywhere up to $14 in the store, and these are very organic. So that's what we've tried to do. We've actually also started planting romaine because I've heard a lot of horror stories about the prices of romaine.
In the capital, multiple schools are publicizing their egg programs and also offering eggs by the dozen for $6. Government High School's program has been so successful that when we tried to reach out last week, they'd already sold out. Dennison shares how she does her best to meet growing demands.
There's a waiting list till the end of the week. So I need to get more. We have about 23 hens. So everybody lays in cycles, right? It's a cycle. So it's 21 days they lay on and then 21 days off.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
All right, great story, Marlena. While a national food policy is topping the Ministry of Agriculture, Marine Resources and Family Islands Affairs agenda this year, the goal, according to Minister Clay Sweeting, is to drive food security in the country. Sweeting says he's excited about the new initiative.
agricultural policy which helped to encompass an holistic approach, incorporating regulation, legislation, and other aspects to assist the farmers who's not really had the attention they deserve for a long time. So for me at the ministry, this policy would help to drive domestic investment throughout the country and find ways to help to initiate food production to help to fight food insecurity.
A recent United Nations Food Agricultural Organization study revealed that 17.2% of Bahamians suffered moderate to severe food insecurity at the height of the pandemic. Now, to help bolster food security, Minister Sweeting says they're now looking at how they can make local farming easier and more attractive. And when it comes to those who may think it's an impossible task, Sweeting had this to say.
I think that this is a marathon. And you'll always have persons that say we can't get to where we want to be. Everything takes time. You know, countries such as Israel took 50 years to become actually food secure. But what they did is they created policies and initiatives that helped to create a roadmap that whoever took the chair as a minister or whoever won as a government were able to follow this roadmap to ensure that they made it to where they are now.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When our news comes back from the break, yay or nay, more public reaction to the 50th anniversary of Independence logo unveiled last week.
Plus, coming up in sports for tonight, Jonquel Jones officially announced as a member of the New York Liberty. We'll also tell you how the Junior Baseball League of Nassau season has kicked off and the latest from local basketball, volleyball, and more. Just ahead.
And Buckeye Bahamas Hub answering the call to help a child in need. We'll tell you how when our news returns. This is Our News. Welcome back. The country's 50th anniversary of Independence logo was revealed last week. The winning logo received mixed reactions on social media, but we got a different perspective when we hit the streets today. Our Joshua Williams has that story.
Along with the official Independence logo unveiling last week came the praises and critiques alike. Persons took to social media to express their opinions on the graphic. We spoke to residents who all gave positive feedback on the new logo.
The color is different. I like the flamingos because it's a part of our culture. One Nation. I like it. It's about the future of the generation, so I love it.
The theme of it, I like it's nice and simple, straight to the point. It has a nice, beautiful pitch.
I like the flamingos. And I like the soaring going upward. The flashing light I didn't grasp.
Okay.
But I thought it was modern.
I don't really see anything wrong with the logo. I like the flamingos on it. I like the gold. It looks good to me.
I think that's outstanding performance. I think the logo is very nice and very unique. So I think you guys did a good job.
And as for the naysayers,
That's Bahamian on the whole. You can never satisfy or please everybody.
It's life, so everyone can have a different opinion on certain things. So complaints can happen. Some can like it, some won't like it. So that's just life.
Bahamians like to complain about everything. I say that. I particularly love the design and the idea that young Bahamians did it.
We conducted our very own poll last Friday on Twitter. Out of the 197 people that participated in the poll, 59% said they did not like the logo, while the other 41% said they did like the logo. Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
All right, thanks, Joshua. Well, Jonquil Jones, officially a member of the New York Liberty, meanwhile, a busy sporting weekend here in the capital, with Little League baseball, track and field, volleyball, and basketball all seeing action. Here's Marcellus Hall with a check on sports.
All right, thanks a lot, Natalia. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. Well, this past Friday, it became official. Jonquil Jones officially announced as the newest member of the New York Liberty, the former WNBA MVP, now making her home in New York after being traded to that team from the Connecticut Sun, where she spent the bulk of her career. She's now looking forward to seeing exactly how that all turns out. Let's take a look. Jonquil Jones officially announced in front of a raucous crowd of supporters and team fans as a member of the New York Liberty, the former WNBA MVP, being traded from the Connecticut Sun to the Liberty at her own request. Jonquil extremely happy about the introduction and now looking forward to furthering her career and perhaps helping to lead New York to a championship.
What Olaf has done in their careers. And so, yeah, just wanted to be a part of that and to be in a city like New York, it speaks for itself. I don't really have to say much about that. So altogether, it just felt like the right move. I know it's the right move for this chapter in my life.
Meanwhile, Junior Baseball League of Nassau, they started their 2023 season off with their opening ceremonies and introduction of teams. That took place at the St. Andrews Field of Dreams. Dignitaries on hand, as well as the members of the league and officials, as they now get set to kick off the season in earnest next weekend. And track and field taking center stage at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium as the DTSP Wolfpack track and field meet took place. With a number of local track clubs all participating in the various age groups. Track and field action will continue over the next few weeks, again at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium as Carifta draws ever closer. Meanwhile, New Providence Basketball Association action continuing at the AF Valley Gym over the course of the weekend. Division I action saw the TMT Giants beating up on the Carroll Contractors Shockers 67-61. Meanwhile, in Division II play, Cybertech and the Rebels going at it. Rebels Division II team gets the win here 77-55. Meanwhile, from volleyball, New Providence Volleyball Association with a couple of games played over the weekends. Johnson Spikers, they beat the Lady Techs 3-0. Meanwhile, on the men's side, Technicians, they wanted the Defenders in 5 tough sets. And that's your check on sports here on this Monday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Italia.
Still ahead on Our News tonight, how $250 a week can help a child to thrive. And don't go away just yet. Your extended weather forecast is straight ahead when Our News continues. Welcome back to Our News. The Dilly Club coffee shop and bar opened in Marina Village today. Like its sister brands, Bon Vivant and Yellow Bell, the coffee shop and bar stays true to their signature tropical vintage style. Managing Director of the Dilly Club, Kyle Jones, spoke to Our News in preparation for their soft opening on Friday night.
So tonight is our kind of pre-opening, VIP opening, and we're excited just to host a bunch of people and give them that kind of Dilly Club feel and experience, so that come Monday, everybody can really get the proper experience.
Mostly sunny conditions may be ahead this week. Greg is back in the Weather Center with the latest. Greg, things have warmed up a lot since December.
Yeah, it's not unusual. We are slightly above, but it's near normal, what we expect. But yeah, we are expecting a frontal boundary by the weekend, so we're looking for a cool down, a couple of degrees shaves off the temperature. But in the meantime, we are watching a frontal boundary that's pushing into the northwest Bahamas, so we're looking for some clouds, maybe even an isolated shower or two late tonight as that frontal boundary sides towards the capital. Should stall to the south of New Providence across the central, well, the extreme extent, northern extent of the central Bahamas. Most of the energy pulling out towards the east and away from us, and then high pressure will be building in, so we're looking at some breezy conditions for at least a day or two. But there's a system in the western United States that we're going to continue to watch. That is the frontal boundary that we expect to get near by the weekend. And that one will, as I said, change our temperatures a bit. This is the future forecast. That front now dropping into northwest Bahamas, couple isolated showers with it. That system will basically fall apart, pull out towards the east, and then we will be watching this front. That's the one that is expected to get near by the weekend. And as I said, some cooler temperatures, maybe an isolated shower or a thunderstorm expected with that. Boating. Northwest Bahamas, small craft caution in effect, northeast to east winds, 15 to 20 knot, seas running 4 to 6 feet over the ocean. Your high tide will be at 9-10 tonight. For the central and southeast Bahamas, east to southeast winds, 10 to 15 knots, seas running 2 to 4 feet over the open waters. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast, a couple isolated showers with that frontal boundary tomorrow, but things clearing up. And then Friday, we expect that second front and temperatures take a dip into the 70s. That's a look at our weather. Back to you, Italia.
All right, Greg, I'm looking forward to the cooler temperatures on the weekend. Yeah. Well, a corporate company answering the call to sponsor a child at the Grand Bahama Children's Home for 1 year. We spoke with the executive director of the Children's Home about this new venture, and she says they are more than happy to receive help from Buckeye Bahamas Hub.
This speaks volumes to the commitment that they have had to practice with us and partner with us to be able to take care of our children who are here under not so good circumstances.
That's the director of the Grand Bahama Children's Home, June Hutchison, expressing her gratitude to Buckeye Bahamas Hub for sponsoring a child. She says there are needs for all of the children at the home, and the cost to sponsor a child is $250 a week, adding that all of the funds go towards helping the child thrive.
From feeding to books to clothing to any number of things is what the Sponsor a Child hopes to do.
Director of Buckeye Bahamas Hub, Tom Nash, is thrilled to be a part of the mission and says the company will continue to see how they can contribute in other ways.
We're here because we want to help continue the mission that the Children's Home has taken on. They support children that otherwise would have been forgotten in society. They have no resources in some cases, no families, and what they do here is tremendously important. We can't let people fall through the cracks.
Assistant Manager of Government Relations at Buckeye Bahamas Hub, Kim Pratt, thanking the home for the work they're doing in the community.
And obviously making this a safe refuge for the kids. You know, they're not here by any fault of their own. And so we know that it takes the corporate community, such as Buckeye, to assist wherever we can.
And the home's executive director says there are currently 24 children in the home and adds that people don't only have to give back monetarily, they can also offer their time.
Homework needs to be done, getting involved with the children in any recreational activities that they need to be involved in as part of the community. Coming in to play with them, read to them, because they like to feel like they're part of the bigger society and know that people are out there thinking about them and reaching out to them.
What a great initiative. And with that, we thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.